All right, I promised this video, I psyched myself up. We're going to talk about in this video why I believe E3 2021 was complete garbage, okay, which I've talked about before, and I talked about long before E3 2021 started. I kind of got off that, wagon. I was a little bit more nice to it. I probably shouldn't have been. Now it's popular to hate on E3, but I was doing it a month and a half ago when people were getting mad at me for hating on E3 and the way it's organized and the way that it's set up. So I'm going to go back on it. And I want to talk about, again, why I think it was garbage and why, and a very important thing is to, this isn't, I guess, specifically to you, okay, but to people in general, stop making excuses for them, okay? I think in future videos, I do want to talk about what I would do instead. I don't like to be one of those people that just sit, I sit on my mic, faceless kind of person, right? Just talk, but I offer no solutions, right? I say this thing was awful, that thing was awful, but I don't say how I would do it different. I have actually talked many times about how I would do it different. I think in a video probably tomorrow or the next day, I will go through what I would do, what 2022 should look like, okay, if there should be an E3. But let me tell you, I don't think there should be an E3. E3 this year should have been it. In fact, last year when they canceled it, they should have got the memo, just don't bring it back. Now, they are going to bring it back next year as of right now, and I think that'll stay, but they really shouldn't. So we'll go through that, in this video. We'll go through it in the next video, probably tomorrow, talking about it. If you guys are new, if you haven't already, make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, would very much appreciate it. Leave a like. I'm sure this will get dislikes, so try to even them out, although engagements, either way, dislikes is also an engagement. All of my social media stuff is in the description below as well, if you guys want to check it out. My Twitter, my second channel, Podcast Now Plus, my Patreon, and YouTube memberships, all that's in the description if you guys want to check those out. Obviously, again, I would much appreciate it. All right, I mean, look, again, I'm not one of those, oh, Alex was right, like every single time. I get a lot of things wrong. You guys know that if you watch me, I get a lot of things wrong. And I do like to talk, okay? I don't like to hear the sound of my own voice. People say that. I'm not like that. But anyway, months ago, I talked about how I just don't like the way E3 set up, okay? The way that companies... And this year really seemed like a lot of companies were forced. That's definitely, I would argue, a conspiracy theory. Nobody's really said that. But I mean, I talked about in yesterday's video, Konami, I actually respect the fact that they pulled out, even though at the time I hated on them, because at least they knew that it's not worth it. They don't have enough to show. Whereas you have WB Games that's going, and that's poor communication. That's on E3, right? And that's a problem. E3 this year was it was the worst put together event I've ever seen in my life, okay? We didn't get a full schedule until about a week before it started. Not even a week, okay? Then, in that schedule, they didn't even know what half the companies were doing. They couldn't give dates. They couldn't give times. They only gave dates, okay? That's pathetic. And they even said in their own tweet, like, well, we don't even know what, they didn't even have an understanding of what was going to happen with some of these companies. I'm telling you, they asked these companies to come, and they said, I guess, but we kind of want to do it on our own. And E3 said, well, we'll just, and it's technically the ESA, right? And they said, well, please just come. Like, we're begging you, or we're ordering you, please come. And they said, fine, we'll come. I mean, again, that's definitely a conspiracy theory, but I believe it. How do you argue against it after seeing this stuff? Why did Ubisoft go? Why did Square Enix go? Now, they were both okay. Some maybe liked them better than others. I thought Ubisoft was pretty bad, but it wasn't like the worst. And Square Enix was okay, but they could have done more. Take-Two was an inclusion lesson. You could have gone to college for that, paid about $10,000. I guess you get that for free here, so I guess that is a positive. I guess Verizon did the same thing. There were so many conferences, by the way, in behind the scenes that just didn't matter. See, that's the thing. Now, I want to make it clear, right? Xbox Bethesda did really, really good. I loved it, okay? Nintendo, I actually think did pretty solid. Square Enix did okay. They could have done more, but honestly, I'm not all that mad with what we got. Guardians is kind of warming up to me, and again, Bethesda and Microsoft, they just crushed it. But like so many of the background ones, either didn't matter whatsoever, and there were some. I don't remember which one it was. My friend Arthur, he was watching it. It was like the Chill stream. It was an indie showcase. They were like very low-budget games made from just a couple people. I believe it was Saturday right before Ubisoft, and it was cool. Like, I watched some of it too. I enjoyed it. Now, am I going to buy any of those games? No, but they were really fun games to watch. But, like, the thing is, I understand that. So don't come at me and say, well, Alex, there was this small thing and that small thing that, like, was there. Well, here's the thing. They got buried. What I was saying months ago has come true, okay? Nobody needed to go to E3. Not a single goddamn developer or publisher needed to go to E3. Okay? Ubisoft literally did a Ubisoft Presents. They could have done, or Ubisoft Forward, sorry. There's so many of these, I'm probably going to get them mixed up. They could have done a Ubisoft Forward on their own. In fact, you could have thought of it as their own. And E3 just kind of was like the umbrella that it was under. Xbox Bethesda, do you think seriously they needed E3 to do that? They could have done that on their own. Sony's going to do an event much like that, completely on their own. And Microsoft has done events like that on their own. They didn't need them. You think Square Enix Presents, they've done 3 of those already in the past year. You think they needed E3? No. So the bigger companies, 1000% didn't need E3. And then the smaller companies, or the smaller shows that were maybe like okay, and we just don't talk about them because very few people watch them. Well, yeah, very few people watch them. And I'll be, flat out honest. If they just happen on a random day, would they get necessarily more traffic? No. I'm not saying 100% they were buried by the traffic of E3. They kind of were, but I think if they went on their own, they also just wouldn't be all that popular just because of what they are, okay? But again, did they need E3? No, you could argue that E3 hurt them because they were buried. My initial argument against E3 has always been, and this year made it even worse because there were so many more things wrong with E3 this year. But normally it was, I don't like all of these shows back to back to back to back. So many things get buried. People sometimes just show up for participation points and they don't show anything. I was saying this months ago, years ago even. I said this, and people didn't want to believe me. People wanted to hate on me and say, well, Alex, you don't like game announcements? Of course I like game announcements. I don't like how it's organized, okay? Fast forward to right now. It was done horribly. Now, again, do not come at me with, Alex, we just went through a global blank, the P word, right? Don't even leave the channel right now. I don't want you here. Okay? I'm dead. I'm telling you. I'm very honest. I'm very open with people. I'm also very accepting of people that disagree with me. Do not come at me with, Alex, we just gotta have a global, blank word, okay? Because that's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. There are AAA games, Game of the Year contenders, that come out monthly, that have come out over the past year. In fact, some of them happened during the worst parts of this global blank, okay? That's BS. Then you can say, well, but they have to put together shows. Well, did Sony not do 2 killer shows last June and last September? Again, where things were much worse than they are right now. Did Microsoft not do 2 in, I believe, May and August that were pretty darn, they weren't that great, but they were pretty okay? Did that not happen? Of course, it happened. There's again, Ubisoft Forward last July was actually pretty darn good. Remember they announced they announced actually quite a few things there. I believe Far Cry was shown there too, right? These companies can do it. So and that's the part, right? That's the second part of the video. Don't make excuses. It was a poorly put together show. None of these companies need E3. There's more too. I could keep going, right? E3 let streamers know the day E3 started if they could co-stream or not. Remember, I thought I was in because they approved me as a content creator, and I thought that meant that I could co-stream because they didn't email. They didn't tell anybody anything. And then the Saturday that it started, they sent out emails to everybody, including Jeff Keighley, by the way, who's one of the biggest names out there, and said you can't co-stream. Or, you technically can, but we handpicked less than 100 companies. Actually, they said people, but IGN, GameSpot, these are companies. These are, ones that they accepted. You know what I mean? And they were free to do whatever they wanted, and they wouldn't get hit with copyright claims. I did the co-streams. I was hit by copyright claims because I wasn't protected. They told people that the day of. How behind the times can you be? There's a reason why Game Awards and Summer Game Fest is getting bigger each time. It's because Jeff Keighley, does he do an amazing job? No, not really. It's because he's accepting of everybody. Co-stream it. If you have one person watching your co-stream your co-stream, fine, do it. E3 doesn't know what the hell they're doing, okay? You had that. You had Nintendo telling people specifically, do not co-stream it. You're going to get copyright, claims struck, whatever. How stupid. Now, that's a Nintendo problem. Nintendo's always had those issues. But how stupid can you be? You know what I mean? E3 is so behind the times, so unorganized. Schedule was given out a week before. You were approved to co-stream it the day of, or you were not, and you were told that literally 2 hours. I got the email 2 hours before Ubisoft Forward, okay? And I know that only impacts me, but then, again, think about it from your perspective. Was this worth it? Did you enjoy E3? I didn't. Xbox Bethesda was amazing. I loved it. Nintendo was fine, but I was on Twitter for half the time for Nintendo. I didn't even I watched, half of it. I'd say like live, but then the other half I had to go somewhere. And I didn't even mind it all that much because I knew I wasn't gonna miss like the most revolutionary thing in the world. You don't need it, okay? Again, like it's kind of two separate arguments because you could blame the publishers. You could say, oh, Square Enix didn't do a good job. Sure, but like they were probably forced into this, and they probably wanted to do it on their own in the first place, which I would say lowers the hype level. Like if you were told that Square Enix is just going to go on their own versus, oh, Square Enix is an official live stream of E3, which one gets you more excited based off of what I just said? The E3 one, because E3 is like the name, you know what I mean? So like, I blame E3 for that. None of the publishers, whether they were good, shows or bad, did they need E3? None of them did. Not a single one, okay? I am telling you guys that. It couldn't be more clear that people really don't care, okay? Again, last year, when it was canceled, yeah, a lot of people were upset, obviously understanding of the situation, but people were upset. I wasn't upset. I was like, you know what? This gives publishers the opportunity to do their own thing. Now, to end the video, I know what you guys are saying. Well, Alex, E3 is this body, this organization that puts these guys together and gets them to do these announcements in this 4-day stretch. Now, again, that just sounds stupid. That doesn't sound like a good plan when you say, oh, we're just going to get like 10 companies together. They're going to announce all of their games in a 4-day stretch. Again, they bury each other. It's not organized. Some don't show up. Like they show up, but they're only there like in spirit, okay? Like that already sounds bad. But you could say, okay, well, Alex, what would you do? What would you do? Well, again, I've talked about it before, but stay tuned. This is like a part 1, okay? Tomorrow or the next day, but probably tomorrow, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you what I would do in 2022 for, the Summer Game Fest have anything to do with it? Does E3 have something to do with it? I'm going to tell you exactly what I would do. And I guarantee you, under the right circumstances, and if they did exactly what I say, it would be the greatest summer of events that you've ever seen, okay? It would be organized. It would be well thought out. They wouldn't overlap. They wouldn't annoy each other. It would be paradise, okay? That's not what we got. We got complete garbage. So let me know what you guys thought. I know this was aggressive. I know this is normally not me. I normally try to look at both sides. I do see both sides, but the only other side that there is, oh, announcements. Oh, there's announcements here. That's it. You can't come at me with anything else. Like, oh, you don't want the announcements. It's like, no, I do. I think there's better ways of doing it than this garbage that was E3, okay? Again, don't make excuses for them. It can always be better. Always, right? So let me know what you guys thought. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon. You know the whole situation, right? Description, all my other social media stuff is in there. Thank you all for watching. I'm going to go take a breath now and a break, and I will see you all on the next video.